Good afternoon again. I'm doing a couple videos today. Probably going to try to do at least 3. I would ideally like to do 4, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the one recipe today or not. Because I usually don't do videos when my family's here because I try to concentrate on them and there's so much going on. But there's something that I've been interested because my channel is called True Crimes and life in general and other things, which I'm trying to change my name, but I found out because I've changed my name recently, I cannot change it in a while. I will let you know when I do that. But a subject that's always fascinated me since I've read about it and watched about it, documentaries and the movie in the 80s, is Charles Manson and the Helter Skelter situation. Of course, I watched Helter Skelter and read Helter Skelter when I was younger and recently. Once I got on YouTube, I started watching more of his videos that I sometimes used to watch by myself or with my parents back in the 80s, 90s, and even in the 2000s. I always thought that some things that he said were, well, a lot of things that he said were definitely true. Some people thought of him as a prophet. There's a lot of books I have not read about him that I've saw in comments about reading, and I wrote some notes about it. Oh, I just dropped my pen. Basically, I'm going to talk about Charles Manson and what is it all about? What is Helter Skelter all about? What was it really about? And please do not take offense of this. I know that of Sharon Tate and her baby died, and that is very upsetting. I have a fan page, and I am devoted to Sharon Tate. Abigail Folger, Steve Parent, which a lot of these people were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, which I mainly think Sharon Tate and Steve Parent were. But at the same time, I'm not sure if Sharon Tate did know about certain things. She just wasn't, obviously did not deserve to die. I just need to touch on my notes so that way I can stay focused. Let me grab my pen. Where the heck did that thing go? All the way under the chair. Okay, so, which I explained to you when I first saw Helter Skelter and all that. Some think that anyone that drinks up the media version of Charles Manson needs to go read Myth of Manson, which I thought there was also a book called Myth of Helter Skelter. I know Susan Atkins wrote a couple books, which that would probably have to be the one that I despise the most. But then I've also read recently that she wrote a book about a myth, and I don't know if that's to do with it or related to it, and some people believe that she didn't even kill Sharon Tate. It was actually Tex, and she just said that she did. Really don't know the reasons of that, because like I said, I haven't read all up on this. I just did some notes. I've watched videos. I have read Helter Skelter, but a lot of people say that's not the one that you should only read. A lot of people think that that's a myth. So, okay. Like I said, some think that anyone that drinks up the media version of Charles Manson needs to go read The Myth of Manson. Charles Manson Behind Bars is also another book that they suggested. Charles Manson Behind Bars. That will tell a different story and our different point of view. He was different. He was definitely a criminal, but was he a killer? What do you think your thoughts are? I'm going to touch more on this, of course, on this video. And eventually I will have other videos about this as well. Surprisingly, I came across a lot of videos, and I do remember this now vaguely, but it's starting to come to my memory, that he was worried about the air, the trees, the water, and the animals. Life and government, oil consumption, way before we really even had such a problem with oil consumption. He speaks the truth to power. He talks in riddles. He talks crazy talk, but sometimes if you go back and listen, there's some weird things in there that kind of ring true and kind of are all mixed up. He also was talking about the one interview I remember and I wrote on was when he was talking to Geraldo. I believe that was in the 80s. Can't believe how old these videos are and how long ago this was. But anyway, he had some great insight in the pollution and the environment about smog, trees, the desert dying, the trees dying, the birds can't live. He had talked about that he went and got locked up because he was locked up most of his life. And when he came out, he had noticed these things already. Well, imagine if he would have came out in like the 90s or 2000s. I then read somewhere where all the sea animals are going to be gone by 2048. That is only, what, 29 years from now? And then I heard by 2020 something, but I don't remember the exact year of this, that oranges were going to be extinct. And then I heard bees are getting extinct. So a lot of what he talked about came true. He said he killed nobody, nor broke no law many, many times, and almost in every video. With the conviction of that, it was a situation wrong and was different than thought out. So I'm not really sure. He did say some great things. He did try to rile people up if he didn't like you, or he tried to act and play a certain part. Sometimes he looked like he was drugged in the interviews. He definitely changed throughout the interviews. But remember, this is Charles Manson. That was what somebody did say, and I agree to an extent. This was something I really wanted to touch base on. Some people who like Charles Manson's views on things, because some of his views on things I like. Do I believe in any killings? No. He was raised in the penitentiary. He had a bad childhood. He did say he killed somebody about drug deal. I don't remember the guy's name. But he always says and states, always did state, because he recently died. But a lot of people think he was innocent and he never really told anyone to kill anyone or did any killings. But anyways, I want to focus on this, something I really want to hit up on and make people understand where I'm coming from. Some people who like Charles Manson's view on things do not believe he had anything to do with those murders. He could have been complaining about his situation and screaming his innocence throughout all those interviews, but he talked of his mind and views and issues facing humanity. Some say the family wasn't a cult. That's all a myth. There were a few videos on Manson that explain using more evidence than was presented at the trial of why those murders occurred. And he really didn't get a fair trial. Yes, they acted crazy, but they were on LSD and drugs, and the girls were very young and thinking it was cool. And I don't really know if Charles Manson influenced them or if it was so much text and Tex Watson and the drugs. Which it seems like Tex is mainly the one that murdered everyone, but you don't really hear about him. And he's also not the cult leader or the head person of this whole situation. So I find that odd. Some believe, and I question Belowski, the one that wrote Helter Skelter. Some believe it's a work of fiction and created by him. Please go lay down, Karma. Go lay down. Go lay down. I can't hear like that. Go. Anyways, the man that wrote Helter Skelter, Belowski, however you say his name, created Manson to sell novels and obtain a conviction. And then I read somewhere where someone said, and this is a great point to really stop and think about, especially in these days and times, what we know now, the evidence, there really isn't evidence, but the way that we have things now and the way that we can think for ourselves. Ask yourself this: where's the evidence to say that it's what Charlie believed? Now, I'm not defending him as a person. By his own admission, he was a career criminal. But cult leader, is that true? Was that something just to basically stop the hippie era, to bring about Vietnam War, more oil consumption? Some people believe this. Some people think that's why Helter Skelter was a myth. It was a psyops or whatever, MK Ultra, mind control. Charles Manson was a patsy. Also, as I saw, the first person to say Charles Manson was a cult leader was Susan Atkinson. Yes, the woman that claimed she killed Sharon Tate. This is what I read. Reliable source? We don't think so. Okay, some wanted the case to be reopened. There was no trial, no evidence. Did Manson have anything to do with it? Otherwise, and other than based on witness statements made by junkies, prostitutes, and young people scared into lying. It seemed like it was kind of a miscarriage of justice. Some say he was a prophet visionary. What do you think? Like I said, some of the things he said did seem more logical than people that we have in office. And I like how he was talking about the media in one of the interviews, and I don't remember which one it was. Oh, it actually was with Ronald Reagan Jr. That's another great interview. That's the one that I touched base with these notes. He was talking about the witches, the old witches, watching news and living in fear and living through it, and that's what media lives off of. Putting us all against each other. And then he said in there, instead of worrying about the air, trees, water, and worried about the new dance. Still kind of the same way, right? Seems like we're waking up a little. Someone said a lot of people are starting to get it. And then he said it was like the Pied Piper. I kind of thought that was a little true. Pied Piper with your music, or did you actually lead them like the Pied Piper? He said he always said he was not a child of the 60s, not a Beatles fan, that he liked Bing Crosby and Sinatra, and a lot of people testified that that was true because he was older than the followers. Like I said, was he just a patsy? It's all still a question. You wonder if it will ever come out different than we have been told. Okay, a few odd things about Charles Manson and the whole Helter Skelter, especially Sharon Tate deal. Please, like I said, do not get me wrong. My oldest daughter, was actually born on August 9th. And recently I found out that her father, his name is Paul Richard, and that was going to be Sharon Tate's unborn son's name, Paul Richard Pulaski. So that's some of my connections to it. But the things that I find odd was that it was back in the day when everyone did drugs. There is video of Sharon Tate smoking a joint, which I'm not judging. I'm just saying, is it possible that this all was a drug-related deal? Because supposedly there's books and documentaries and people talking about that as well. Also, the music industry and the sex. It's like it has all of it. Rock and roll, sex, drugs. And it's very weird that Jay Sebring hung around and stayed with Sharon Tate at Roman Polanski's house while she was married to him. And it is weird that Roman Polanski happened to be gone then. And a few years prior, Rosemary's Baby was made. I know, I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist or conspiracy theory or whatever. I just do find that movie weird. If you've never seen Rosemary's Baby, you need to watch that, okay? Because it was at least like 2 years prior to, I believe it was 1967. I might be wrong. Correct me, but in an adult fashion, please. Carmen, please get done drinking so I can do my video. So he makes this movie, or it gets released, I believe, in 1967, Rosemary's Baby, which basically was about a lady getting pregnant by Satan, which a lot of people believe that there was some satanic rituals, or there is go on within Hollywood, and that the man in the movie was an actor, and he sold his soul to become one, and gave up his newborn, and his wife did not know till the end. That's the movie that Roman Polanski made. I don't really believe in coincidences. I know a lot of people that don't. What compelled him to make that movie, I wonder? I don't know. I just find that weird. And that he wasn't there. And then years later, after Sharon Tate's death, he has that rape and trial of the 13-year-old. Was he always really like that? Because some people said that that happened because he was so upset about Sharon dying. That I'm not really so sure about. Because just like in the interview with Ronald Reagan Jr., Charles Manson says that, well, you know, the preachers, they like the little boys. And it was kind of before all that really hit so much about preachers and little boys. And I'm not trying to get off track. It's just something that Charles Manson might have known too much. Government, the media selling fear, Hollywood and its satanic rituals. He talks in a few of the interviews in kind of riddles, but talks about the satanic rituals they do. Well, also Sharon Tate did that movie, was it Devil's Eye? Devil's Eyes? Devil's Eye? Was she a sacrifice? That would be mind-blowing, right? Some people say he didn't touch anybody and he's in jail for life. But like I said, I do believe he actually did admit to murdering somebody. It was just not any of these people involved in August 9th and 10th's murder. So some people think that if he was a free man, he would know too much and own all the elites because of what he knows. Maybe he did know too much. And then in one of the videos, someone said that war was written on Sharon Tate's stomach. It wasn't actually Sharon Tate's stomach. It was Leno LeBlanc. The other ones, LeBlanca's, Leno. Which some say that the reason they went to that house is because Rosemary LeBlanc, which, see, that was the other weird thing. Rosemary LeBlanc. Rosemary's Baby. Anyways, maybe just all coincidence. But she had a black book of clients about drugs or whatever to do with the elite, and that was what they were trying to get. I don't know if you've heard that. That's something I've heard recently. But the war actually was not a W. It was Seal of Saturn on his belly. I did not look up what Seal of Saturn means. If someone could leave the information in comments, that would be greatly appreciated. If not, I will look it up. So some say, who's really doing this? When he says he knows why the Queen wears those 3 stripes on her crown. I have not looked up what that means, but supposedly it's not good. I plan to definitely try to do that for my next video. Hopefully I don't forget. I'm writing notes. Also, he says he knows why she goes to Kentucky to get her horses. I did not look that up, and I don't even know if I can actually look that up, or if it's the truth. Okay. Some people think this happened so America would be in Vietnam to get more oil and stay longer. He knew the whole gig. So what do you think? Thanks for my new subscribers. Please like and subscribe, and I will be talking about this more. Probably not until towards the anniversary, but maybe before then. It's hard to believe that's almost 50 years. Anyways, please like and subscribe, and have a good afternoon.